Good evening. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the first powerful panel of Alum Teach and Learn Month. My name is Megan, and I am the Director of Alumni Engagement here at Alverno College, and I'm so excited to welcome all of you to our panel and to celebrate Alum Month with you. This is our 5th annual Alum Month, and although it looks a little different, we're all virtual, we're still very active with a lot of great programs. So this is the first week, but we have 2 more weeks full of programming for you. So make sure to check out our website and sign up to join us for a few of those. Tonight's panel is Women and Inclusion in STEM. And I am going to let our fabulous student panelist, Jennifer Gavina, introduce herself and then introduce our panelists to you. So take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Megan. I'm Jennifer Gavina. I'm currently an Alverno senior student, and I'm currently majoring in biomedical science with the chemistry support. And I'm very excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to all the wonderful things that Alverno women have been doing in STEM fields across the nation. So with us, we have Amanda Acevedo, class of 2012, with the Cancer Research Training Award postdoctoral fellow with the National Cancer Institute. We also have Angela Peccaro, class of 2012, CEO of Navy Plant and Advicent. We have Mary Braun, class of 86, with Enterprise Cloud Architect Director, who retired in July of 2018, but has over 40 years of information technology experience in Oracle. We have Miranda Macy, class of 2017, PhD candidate in the chemistry department at the University of UW-Madison and the Habignero Lab. And lastly, we have Rachelqualheim, class of 2013, and she's an associate formulation development scientist at the Promega Corporation. Thank you, ladies. Okay, so to begin this panel, I'm going to ask each of you if you can please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your organization and the type of work that you do or did in your STEM field. Okay. So I'm going to start with Angela, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Megan, for inviting me to participate in the panel. This is going to be a lot of fun. So again, my name is Angela Peccaro. I'm the CEO of Advicent, and we're located here, headquarters, international headquarters really, here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And our mission is to enable everyone to understand and impact their financial future. And we do that through financial planning technology, software technology. And we service over 3,000 unique institutions, probably 150,000 financial advisors, and we generate millions of financial plans out of our platform every single year. We do business in the United States, Canada, and the Netherlands. And we are really just, again, thinking mostly about our mission every single day, making sure that the software we provide is allowing people to live out their best financial life. So we work with a lot of the largest financial institutions that you might recognize, the likes of Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Ameriprise, Northwestern Mutual, Baird. All of these folks are our customers, and other large institutions in the other countries we serve as well. So I have been the CEO for 4 years. And when I started in the STEM field, which wasn't really called STEM back when I started, it was software technology. I was an entry-level customer support representative, and I answered the phone to answer questions from advisors and insurance brokers on how to utilize our software. And when they would buy the new software from us, I would travel around the country and train them how to use it. So part of my story I'll be sharing is how I actually am not a computer science major. I've never developed software. I'm not an engineer, but I have a almost 20-year career in technology. And I'll explain a little bit how there's so much variety in technology beyond just becoming an engineer. So that's my story. And again, thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Angela. Mary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. And so my name is Mary Braun. I really appreciate being part of the panel today and excited to share some of my experiences as well. You know, as it noted, I did retire in July of 2018, but before that was in IT for 40 years. I started out as a programmer way long time ago, and then worked my way up through management. I was a CIO at 2 mid-sized manufacturing companies in the Milwaukee area. And then my last position, last company I was with was Oracle, and I was there for 14 years. And my last job there was Enterprise Cloud Architect Director. And what that basically was is that my team was made up of sales consultants, and we supported our sales team in explaining what our solutions, our products would do for a customer. I ended up with 26 pre-sales consultants in a 15-state area, so was on the road a lot over my time with Oracle. And I'll share more as we go through this tonight. But it's IT to me was a great field to be in because it always changed and we were always learning something new. So that was always part of it, to be fun and not bored by being in the same field, so to speak, but it always changed as the years went on.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mary. Rachel, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I would just want to say quickly, thank you for having me part of this panel. It was an honor. And as we mentioned before, I'm Rachelqualheim. I am an Associate Formulation Development Scientist at Promega Corporation, which is located in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. We are a life sciences company. We provide over a couple hundred different types of solutions, anything from genetic identity to bioassays, you name it. So we kind of have our hands in everything. So my job is to essentially figure out how to help stabilize a lot of our solutions. Most of them, which have enzymes and proteins, need to be stored at -70 or -20 degrees C, and not all of our customers are able to have that storage, or if they're out in the field, you can't necessarily take the freezer with you. And so I work on reformulating those solutions so that they are stable at room temperature. And in particular, I utilize freeze drying. So, and in the past, I had started off in making vaccines for a few years, kind of worked my way through some development at another company, and then ended up going to research and kind of ended up here at Promega.
Thank you so much for sharing. Amanda Acevedo, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, can you hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be part of this panel. My name is Amanda Acevedo. I'm a Cancer Research Training Award postdoctoral fellow at the National Cancer Institute. I'm in my second year now, and I do two things. So I work in the basic biobehavioral and psychological sciences branch, where I do independent research on things like how culture and emotion processes impact people's health behaviors that are relevant to cancer. I also do help with some grants management, where I contribute to funding opportunity announcements, idea development, concept development for the grants that people end up applying to through the National Institutes of Health. I started my training at Alverno, actually, in the Research Center for Women and Girls. After that, I got a post-baccalaureate opportunity in New Mexico for a year, and then got into a PhD program at the University of California, Irvine, before I got the postdoc position that I'm currently at.
Thank you. And Miranda, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's really cool to hear about what all other alums are doing. And I'm really honored to be here too. So yeah, I'm Miranda. I am a fourth-year graduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I am in the Cava Neuro Research Group. Our group uses a lot of different spectroscopic methods to study how proteins acquire their three-dimensional fold on the ribosome. And the ribosome is responsible for producing proteins inside of our bodies and cells and in bacteria too. But basically what we're trying to do is figure out how does the ribosome facilitate proper protein folding, because as we know, there are a lot of drugs that are protein-based. Proteins are important for a lot of biological processes in our bodies. So it's important that they are working optimally. And I do that with mostly spectroscopy, but I also started getting into some single particle cryo-electron microscopy work as well. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much all about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do want to say that Miranda, she was a guest speaker for our biochemistry class last semester, and I did have a chance to learn more about electron cryomicroscopy, which it was just amazing and it blew my mind. It was really fun to read and learn more about it, so thank you for that.
That's so sweet, thank you.
Okay, so I'm really excited and looking forward to hearing more about each one of you. I do have a couple questions. So my first question is for everyone. So what experiences shaped your interest in pursuing a career in the STEM field?
Well, this is Mary. I guess I'll go first. Because it wasn't, no one even knew what STEM was back. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1973, so you can see how old I am. But I was good in math in high school. So the school counselor said, you're good at math. Why don't you go into, back then it was called data processing. So that's what I did. I went to the 2-year technical college in Green Bay and then moved down to Milwaukee and started out as a programmer. And I just was very lucky. I got into a field that I absolutely loved. And then I went to Alverno and got my bachelor degree and continued, with that. But it was just really luck that I fell into something that I loved and stayed in over 40 years.
I'll go next. Similarly, and I mentioned this before, that there wasn't an acronym of STEM when I started, and this is about 22 years ago. I pursued a career that would kind of take me down the path of more the insurance space, the customer service. I had gotten my licenses, and I, again, through networking through during my undergrad and doing some participating in student organizations, had some relationships that I tapped into to look for a more corporate job as I was graduating. And someone saw something in me and said, you'd be a great fit for our company, Xywave, which is a very large technology company here in Milwaukee. And I started back then in 2002 as one of 30 employees. We were a startup entrepreneurial incubator company that was trying to really define a new way to help employers manage their healthcare costs. And it was being done through technology. So I actually, similar to Mary, fell into it by accident, but found a real passion for working with data, with our customers. It also kept me in that insurance space, and I learned the roots of technology along the way. But all the while kind of grew my career in all different areas of the business, from customer support to marketing to sales to product management. And so that's kind of, my background, and Mary, I agree with you, was a lot of learning and a lot of change. And that's what kept me there. A lot of dynamic things happening in the technology space over the last 20 years. So it's been a lot of fun, and that's what's kept it interesting for me.
Thank you, Angela.
I guess I can go next. For the longest time growing up, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And so when I went to Alverno, I majored in biology with a minor in chemistry with the intent to go to veterinary school. And after I graduated, while I was applying to different vet schools, I landed a job at an agriculture research company and ended up really enjoying that. Wasn't expecting to really be into like bugs and plants because that was not my thing. I was into animals. And absolutely loved it. But unfortunately, when fall and winter kind of came, there was no work to do. So in the meantime, you have to essentially wait a year for your application. And I ended up finding a job at a company that makes vaccines for the veterinary industry. So I'll still kind of get in some of that veterinary, but on a completely different side of things. You know, mostly on the cell culture, but basically at a small company, you get to wear many hats and do everything from manufacturing to labeling to filling, you name it. And so I kind of learned about freeze drying there, and I thought it was really neat. And after talking to my father, who works in the biotech industry, he got to tell me about some of the other things going on with some of his clients, about the things that different companies are doing, like using horseshoe crab blood for different assays and cures and things like that. I really kind of piqued my interest and kind of reconsidered veterinary school. So worked there for like 3 years or so making vaccines, but kind of got to a point where I wasn't learning anything anymore. And I realized I'm the type of person, I want to continue to learn nonstop. I want to know as much as I can. And so I ended up moving over to another company, dropped the veterinary thing, and went to a small startup company where we did product development. A lot of these companies would come to us, they're filing with the FDA, trying to make these pharmaceuticals work. And so we would kind of help them develop that for clinical trials. And really enjoyed that, but that was a really short stint since the company unfortunately was not the greatest at managing their money. And so jumped ship before the company went under, and then ended up over at another company doing just strictly research. And I thought I would really enjoy that, but really it was just follow the protocol. If it doesn't meet spec, tell your manager, and that's it. So I really wasn't learning anything. And that's when I kind of started looking into doing more training onto freeze drying, since a while back when I made vaccines, I thought that was really neat. And started getting into that, and then ended up finding a job at Promega, where that's exactly what they were looking for, was someone to come in and, you know, help develop not only new products, but old products to be freeze dried. So it was kind of, I definitely knew I wanted to be in sciences a while back, but I definitely did not think this is where I would be. And absolutely love it. So I'll hand it over to whoever wants to talk next.
Thank you, Rachel.
I can go next. As I mentioned, I started my research experiences really at the Research Center for Women and Girls. But what inspired me to apply for a position there was the classes that I was taking at Alverno. I was a psychology major, so I took experimental psychology, research methods, and physiological psychology. And all three of those really got me very interested in psychology in general, how you can do research just by asking people questions and asking your own research questions about how people think and feel and how that might impact their health one day. I thought that was so interesting, and it gave me a potential to impact people on a broader scale than, you know, one-on-one clinical based work, which is, I think, what I thought I wanted to do when I first was a psychology major. But once I found out that you could actually do research in this area, I was really excited, even more excited about the potential to learn. And I think that's actually a common thread that I'm hearing from everyone who's spoken so far is one thing that's really attractive about a career in science or technology, engineering, math is the fact that you can continue learning even in a career once you're kind of established in it. So outside of the classwork and the research experiences that I gained, I was realizing that I was really interested in kind of the mind-body connection, especially after the physiological psychology class. And I met with the professor, Paul Smith, about my interests, and he mentioned this field called health psychology, which I had no idea about. It's actually one of the newer fields of psychology, actually. And I ended up applying and getting into a health psychology PhD program, and received that degree in 2019. And really, I was very interested in how, you know, emotions can impact your heart's response to different stressors. And so I was learning a lot about stress physiology and how there's all this individual variation in how people respond to stress, but also how to measure different, you know, different body systems that respond to stress. So your heart responds to stress, but also cortisol, which is a stress hormone, other inflammatory processes that might be triggered by stressors that happen. I got really interested in all of those. And because of my expertise in measuring those markers of stress, I applied to and obtained this position at the National Cancer Institute because they wanted somebody who, you know, despite my lack of experience in cancer research, they wanted somebody who had my experience in biomarkers and health psychology. So I fell into this position. Like I said, had not done cancer research before, but I'm really enjoying it and really enjoying learning more about how my expertise kind of fits into this context of cancer.
Thank you.
I think I'm the last one, so I'll go ahead and go. So yeah, I think my interest in STEM actually started when I was in high school. I had a really, really amazing high school chemistry teacher. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about chemistry was that I felt like I got to experience the world in a totally different way. Because like looking at things on a molecular level is a lot different than looking at things just with our everyday eyes. And I absolutely loved that. At Alverno, I majored in chemistry and environmental science, and I was like dead set on doing environmental chemistry. That's what I wanted to do. And I don't know how this happened, but like somewhere along the way, I got really, really interested in protein structure. So by the time I got to graduate school, and again, I wanted to keep learning. I think a lot like what the other panelists have said. I wanted to keep learning. I wanted to be able to do independent research. And I felt like graduate school is the best option for me to do that. So I applied to Madison, I got in, and then got really interested in protein structure, protein function. I mean, just looking through the PDB, the protein data bank online, they're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I was like, oh, I want to do that. So that's when I was able to kind of combine my knowledge of chemistry, which was like spectroscopy, chemical assays, things like that, with protein structure, using spectroscopy to study protein dynamics, using cryo-electron microscopy to study protein structure. So that's kind of where I am now. I don't have an official career yet, but I think what I've been learning about myself this past year is that I really, really like science communication. So I think that's actually what I'm going to be pursuing after I get my PhD.
Thank you, Miranda. And it's amazing to hear as an Alverno student how your experiences and all these new experiences actually shape your career. And it's just amazing to hear that. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so my next question is for Mary. So as a leader in the technology industry for over 40 years, what perspectives can you offer about the changes you've seen related to representation and or diversity?
First, I have to say I'm really impressed with the panel, all of the women that are a part of this, and so great to see, and it's inspiring to see all the different diversity of the fields that the panel is in. Because unfortunately, my experience in the 40 years, I didn't see a lot of change. There were a few women, there was a few CIOs that I knew as customers, But overall, I mean, my husband was always laughing because I would say, today I was in a meeting and it was me and 20 guys. And the 26 people that reported to me at Oracle were all men. So I always felt bad that I didn't see more women in the field. Like when I was CIO, I did have women in my department, and I would talk to them, and and I always was more of a workaholic, and they would see that and they would say, well, we don't want to be, we want to be like you, and we don't want to have that kind of responsibility. So I'll just keep it short because I know we have a lot of other questions. But I have to say, unfortunately, I didn't see a lot of change in the 40 years, a little bit, but not anywhere near which I would hope to have seen. And that's why, again, I'll just end with, I'm really inspiring to see the panel here today and the different fields that the women are going into. And that makes me feel better. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yes, it's definitely very inspirational to see how women have been changing the STEM fields, different various STEM fields. And it's just amazing to see that representation, to see more Latino women, more women in general, and definitely change things around. Okay, thank you. My next question is for Angela. So as a technology CEO, how did seeing successful women like Mary impacted your journey?
So I was going to add to what Mary said. And as I mentioned, I have about 20 years of experience, and I too would have been the only woman in the room. And a lot of it had to do with not only because I was in technology, but because I was also in financial services. And so I'm in two functions. And I think with manufacturing, you might have experienced the same thing, Mary, that those two fields are very male dominated even today. And so I was not only one of the youngest at the time, but I was definitely the only woman. And throughout the last 20 years, I have seen a shift, which is becoming, the velocity of it is really inspiring. But initially, I would have seen a lot of women around me taking on customer service roles, human resource roles, professional services roles. And we would rarely see technologists, application developers, IT leaders, cybersecurity, and that is definitely shifting and changing now. It's super inspiring for me as a hiring leader, growing a team to bring on more female application developers, quality assurance analysts, cybersecurity folks. So we are now seeing more women coming out of college with degrees and interest in the areas that we definitely need them. And having a diverse development team building software that's designed to help everyone in their financial lives is important, that the developers represent everyone, because those perspectives come through on the way that we design our software, because women and men are interacting with our software. So it's really cool to see. I wish there were more. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion objectives within our business to increase the prevalence of female leaders and talent in our business. And we are working really hard to find out where those women are. So it's really, been inspiring to work alongside women like Mary to really foster the growth and development of those that are coming into our business. But as I've grown in my career, what I didn't see, I'm trying very hard to use my platform in things like this panel, and other things to say, yes, I'll absolutely attend, so that people can see that there's a diverse group of women with such diverse backgrounds and talents out there. And there's so many different opportunities. And I think one of the biggest barriers is just awareness of what's out there. Do you have to be a software developer to work in a software company? Absolutely not. But if you want to, there's plenty of opportunity. So there's all different ways in which I'm, trying to play a role to help with that. And this, within my company, certainly, but in doing things like this, just allowing me the opportunity to have a platform and promote technology opportunities for other women is just my way of doing it. But I'm definitely in that space of, I've seen it, what it would look like before and where it's going. And I'm certain that the other women on this panel represent our future. So that's super exciting to me.
Thank you. I think it's definitely very, very, very exciting to see where the future is taking us. Okay, so my next question is for everyone. So was there ever a time when you felt a barrier at work or in the pursuit of your goals? And how did you overcome that? What experiences did you learn from that situation?
I guess I'll go. I think the biggest thing for women, and that's not just in STEM, but in all fields, is making sure you're getting paid equitable. And at one point, I did go and ask for a raise. There's a book by Mika Brzezinski is called Know Your Value. And if you haven't read it, it's really a good book, because women tend to go in and say, I know it's probably not a good time to ask for a raise, but you have to go in and say, this is why all the things that I'm doing. And I think I'm worth this. And I did get the raise. So I think, and I've talked to a lot of women about this. I think it's really important. I mean, I've had my sister go in and she got what she asked for. It was just another week of vacation, but it can be anything. And I think that's something that women struggle with, is making sure you understand your worth is really important. And then putting a case together for that and go in with a strong case, because men do that all the time. And I think as women, we need to learn how to do that, because we're not as good at doing it. And again, if you ever, that book is really worthwhile. So it's, again, know your value, make sure you're getting paid what you deserve. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Mary.
I totally agree with that. One of my best mentors was my father, and he often would say, you won't get it unless you ask for it. And no one is going to advocate for you. You are your biggest and best advocate. You definitely want to surround yourself with professionals that will advocate for you when you're not in the room, not just mentor you, but advocate for you. But at the end of the day, you are it for yourself. And so making sure, like you said, Mary, having that strong business case as to why you deserve what you want, whether it's a new role, your vacation, a salary increase, ask for it, be unapologetic about it, and be really factual as to why you deserve it. One of the barriers I experienced was just someone saying, I raised my hand for an opportunity and someone said, you're not ready. They decided that I wasn't ready or I couldn't do the job that I thought I could do. And I didn't really stomp my feet too hard, but I asked, well, what does it take for me to get to that spot? And lo and behold, I, got that spot eventually and did a better job than the person before them. So it was just, taking those opportunities to reflect on that feedback. I probably look back and there were some things that I did need to learn, I did need to grow in, and just being, realistic and pragmatic about, what you do still have to learn and grow in is important. So know what you're good at and know where you need to grow, and really just be honest with yourself about that and take the feedback and work hard to that goal. Because again, I could have said, well, like maybe that position's not for me, or maybe that area is not for me, but I wanted that feather in my cap and I was willing to put in the work.
Thank you.
Going along with what Mary and Angela said, I kind of ran into a similar situation where it was time for a raise, and they wanted to know, like, well, how much do you want? And I was like, I don't know. I ended up contacting my father, and he's like, oh, ask for this much. And I'm like, that much? Like, that seemed ridiculous. And he's like, worst case, they're going to say no. They accepted it. And I was like, holy cow, this is insane. And it was wonderful. It was great. And especially since, like, after the fact, I found out what some of my male counterparts were making. I was like, I've been getting underpaid that much. And I was. It was hard to believe. But, there's definitely still some barriers. I recently switched departments, but I'm still doing the same job. And I definitely had a male counterpart straight up told me that he doesn't know why they hired me, because someone else can do my job. And, that kind of hurt. But I've been at Promega now for 2 years. And I was kind of given a decision to, continue in this position or take a slightly different one. And, you know, I've worked really hard on continuing my training and doing my best. And I was thinking about going to a different department actually. And that's when my, well, now current boss pulled me aside and told me, you know, if I didn't take the position that I'm currently in, they would find someone to replace me. But the company's depending on me. They realize that they can't replace me. It's really hard to find. And so, you know, that's really helped me quite a bit gain some of my confidence back. And so I think it's just, you know, getting that self-confidence of, you know, I am worth it. I can do this. You know, who cares what other people say? There's always going to be naysayers. And you just go with it, you know, do your best. And
I can go. I think my barrier that I had a very difficult time overcoming was a lot more internal, because it was mostly setting work-life boundaries and learning how to manage my time well. Because in graduate school, it's structured a lot different than it is in undergrad. In undergrad, you've got your classes that you take, maybe you're also working, you're getting research experiences. All of your time is very structured, even at least mine was when I was at Alverno, and down to the hours that I was doing homework. But in graduate school, a lot of it is very unstructured. You might take 1 or 2 classes a quarter or a semester, and the rest of the time you're really pursuing your independent research. So reading and writing papers and doing data analysis. And that can be overwhelming if you don't break it down into little chunks. So you can, like me, procrastinate a lot and poorly manage your time in that way, or you can become overwhelmed the other way and then work all the time and be a perfectionist about all the products that you're working on, and then not giving yourself a break and then run yourself into potentially burning out. I think this past year of teleworking, I've learned very well how to, you know, create that boundary between work and life. I work in my bedroom at my desk, and then when I'm done working for the day at 5 or 6 p.m., I close my bedroom door and I don't go back in until I'm ready to go to sleep. So it's been a lot easier, I think, to set this boundary because of everything that's happened this past year. I know that that's not true for everyone, especially those with little kids at home or with partners. But I've been, that was one barrier that I definitely struggled with, and I struggled with it hard in graduate school, to the point where I almost got like demoted in my academic standing or something during my second year. I had to consider, you know, potentially mastering out of the program or pursuing it. And I just dug deep and made the deadline that I needed to make, and was able to finish on time and in good academic standing too. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely struggling with that. So I feel that on a personal level. My struggle was probably also a little bit more internal, but it was also a bit perpetuated by like my external environment. So when I first started grad school, I was the first one in my family to go to college, obviously the first one to go to grad school. I got to grad school and all of these people were coming from like these Ivy League private schools. And I was like, what the heck am I doing here? And I felt that way for a really, really long time. And I think one thing I really, really struggled with my first year was imposter syndrome, which I'm sure we've all heard of at this point, where I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I wasn't smart enough. I felt like I didn't know anything. I had no work-life balance whatsoever. So it was just this really, really vicious cycle of doubting myself, overworking myself, and then having no idea what I was doing. And it took me about a good year before I realized that everyone felt that way, even the people that came from like Harvard or wherever they came from. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest struggle. And one thing that helped me get over it was just being honest with people, like, hey, I have no idea what's going on right now. Can you help me? So yeah, that's definitely helped. And yeah, unfortunately, there is still a bit of sexism at play in the academic world. Like we just finally at UW-Madison have a woman in each one of our paths as a PI or as like the head of a research group. So we're getting there, but like we just got a woman in each one of these paths, and having someone from an underrepresented group still is just a very much work in progress. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like this question hits a little too close to home for me. And after hearing your response from all of you, it really helped as a student. I do struggle a lot with imposter syndrome. Even right now, at this very moment, I feel like, am I even cut out to do this? Am I good enough for a STEM field job? It's just that point in my life where I feel like, am I good enough or am I not good enough? So definitely hearing your responses for this question really helped me in understanding that there is challenges that unavoidably I'm gonna face. But I have to overcome, and I feel like that's the same message that is translating to every student that is listening to each one of you right now. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Miranda's 100% right to say that the best way to deal with that is just be honest. Like that is the most empowering thing you can do for yourself, is just to speak your truth out loud, or we say speak truth to power, or just speak truth and say, I don't know what's going on. It actually level sets the tone. It gets everyone on the same level playing field, and you really find out real quickly, like Miranda said, everyone's dealing with the same thing. And there's something really powerful about you being the one that's leading that charge. You ultimately become that leader in maybe a different way. Maybe someone is more advanced in some of this knowledge base that you're seeking, but you're leading in a different way. So I didn't learn that overnight. I didn't know this early on. This is something I've learned with experience. And even as a CEO of the company that I've worked for 15 years, you think I know it all? No, I've never been a CEO before. Why should anyone listen to me? I was the chief operating officer for 3 years, but CEO is a different story. Customers want something different from you. Your employees want something different from you. I never did it before. And I'm honest. I said, I'll do my best. And, we're going to learn together, and I'm going to be the best leader that I can. But there are things in this role I'm going to learn for the first time too. And maybe I'll make mistakes, but the company's still standing. We're going to be just fine. So there's something really powerful about admitting that. And Jennifer, you probably even are feeling really good now because, hey, you're running the show and you're doing a great job. It's okay.
Yes, and communication skills are definitely one of my challenges. And I feel like right now I'm taking on to that, and I'm trying to overcome it and become better at it. So that's mainly the reason why
you stepped up. You're stepping up, and that's huge. That's very good self-awareness and awesome to tackle it.
Thank you. Okay, so my last question is, this is for everyone. And why do you think there are fewer women in STEM fields than men? Why does this matter? And what do you think we should and can do about it?
I guess I'll go first. I think I read a paper, and I don't remember how many years ago this was. This is from Alvernal's Center of Research for Women and Girls, that they did a study, and it showed that unfortunately some parents will discourage girls from getting involved in in STEM, you know, and at a younger age, they started, you know, they see that. And so then girls don't think it's cool. And that just really ends up letting, they don't go into the field, unfortunately. It matters, I think, a great deal because we need the diversity. Plus STEM fields pay well, you know, and that's good for women. It does allow lots of opportunities, as the panel is showing here today. I mean, you can go off into all kinds of different opportunities once you start. You're always learning, have different opportunities for that. I think some of the things that can be done is to get girls involved early. There was a CIO, and it was one of my customers in Austin, Texas. And I just looked the other day because she still is chair of this thing called Girl Start. And it's all around getting girls started in middle school. And they have all these fantastic programs for girls in a lot of different variety of topics around STEM. And I've looked into, in Green Bay too, there are some, that's where I live, in Green Bay. There are, like the Y has some programs for girls in STEM. Getting them involved early, I think that is the key, and letting them know that it's cool to be part of STEM, that it's not cool. So that's what I would say about it, is that get them going early. So and hopefully getting parents to support it. I think that's really critical as well.
Yeah, I agree with Mary. You know, even in grad school, we had a handful of women, but not as many as men. And a lot of it had to do with, one, what their parents were kind of expecting of them. And then two, not necessarily realizing how large the STEM field is. They think of science, they just think just chemistry, or they think of like one sole career, and not realizing that you can go into like millions of different directions. And one thing I think that's kind of been a positive of the pandemic is that it's really shown that these are essential roles. You know, Promega, we've become essential. We're providing solutions for over 29 different diagnostics for COVID. You know, that's pretty cool. And so, you know, I think starting not off, only getting the girls starting early, but then, you know, showing them that it's not just one single path. There are multiple different paths depending on what you're interested in and, you know, what you really are good at. And so, you know, I do think it's very important, as I believe that each individual, whether you be male, female, or identify as, you know, whatever, has a different perspective. And a lot of science is solving problems, and we need those different perspectives to really solve those problems and continue forward. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. I do agree that we need to educate the community as well, as far as the very diverse fields in STEM. I feel like when you say that you want to go in a field that is science related, people right away think, oh, you want to be a doctor. Like that's probably the first thing that comes into mind. And that was probably my first thing that came into mind when I decided to be a science student here at Alverno. It was through experiences and through the years that I learned how diverse the STEM field really is, and how my experiences really shifted my interest. And now I don't want to be a doctor. I actually want to do research. I want to do cancer research. I want to learn more about biochemistry research. And it's just amazing how these experiences really shift your career pathways. Okay, so we do have a couple questions from the audience. Just a quick second here. Okay, so we have a question from Chris Vasquez. And she says, your current former grad students, what could Alverno have done to help prepare you better for these challenges?
I was I'm laughing at this because like I don't think Alverno could have prepared me for this. So when I was at Alverno, I felt like I was always surrounded by like these very supportive women. Everyone was very open to like letting everyone talk. I cannot tell you how many times I get interrupted on a daily basis since coming to Madison. And like, that was just something I was not prepared for. And it's usually by my male colleagues. So I don't think Alverno could have prepared me for that. But I think what Alverno did really, really well in preparing me was instilling confidence in myself and making me understand like how I learn, because I mean, obviously we didn't have grades, and I felt like that helped me appreciate learning. And especially in research, I mean, you don't get a grade in research. Yeah, you pass your qualifying exams and you'll take a couple classes, but like the ultimate goal is the process. And I felt like that was just like, I was so ready for that. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Miranda.
Ever since because I saw Chris post that comment a while ago, and I've been racking my brain thinking of ways that Alverno could have better prepared me, but I agree. I really don't think, I think Alverno prepared me to go into a research, post-baccalaureate program, prepared me to be able to make those steps to get into the doctoral program. And I just needed to learn the hard way there, how to manage my time better and how to, put boundaries up to make better work-life balance, really. I really can't think, I mean, I can't think of anything. I'm sorry, Chris.
Thank you.
One thing that I was going to mention too, that I didn't really bring up because it doesn't, apply directly to me, but I know it's often a consideration for people who want to go into research and get a PhD is, I should say women who want to go into research and get a PhD is if they feel like there's a conflict between wanting a family and having a partner and their career. And like I said, I feel weird because I can't really speak to that because I don't have children and I don't have a partner. But I do know that that's a whole struggle that women in academia go through that's been talked about in a lot of literature on why women don't end up, pursuing careers as an academic. It's largely because, the male version of doing science is rewarded a lot more than having a family, and doing science at the same time is rewarded.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so just to wrap things up, I do want to ask each of you if you have any advice that you could give a student like myself to continue pursuing a career in the STEM field. Just a brief, quick advice.
I would say just keep talking to people. Keep asking questions, keep making connections with people, and don't give up on yourself just because someone says no.
Thank you.
I agree with Miranda, and continue networking and go for what you want. Don't settle. It may take you a while to get there, but it's totally worth it. Just keep going for it, whatever that passion may be.
Thank you, Rachel.
I would say start to see any setbacks that you have as areas of opportunity, really, and have faith in yourself that you will be able to overcome any setbacks that do come up. Because a lot of times when I look back at all the setbacks that I've had, they actually ended up, you know, a new opportunity opened its door instead, and it ended up being way better than I could have ever imagined. So.
Thank you.
I would say be true to yourself. I've worked really hard earlier on in my career and did a lot. I was hustling a lot, you know, just trying to learn as much as I could. I raised my hand and took as many opportunities as I could. I traveled all over the country, different countries as part of my job. But, you know, the point about being a mom, a wife, a daughter, a friend comes up. And oftentimes I did feel the pressure that you couldn't have it all. And I would suggest to you that that is not true. That's a bunch of crap. And you can have it all. So you can not have children or have children and still be successful and still be a great mom and still be a great professional. So all those things are possible. You just have to have your own way in which you go about it. And so just knowing what sacrifices you're willing to make, what hard work you're willing to put in, but all of it is possible. Don't let anyone tell you differently. I've turned down a lot of opportunities because I just wanted to stay true to myself. I could have taken lots of big time jobs out of state, but it was important for me to raise my children in the Midwest, where an area where I was born and raised. And so that was important to me. So people would say, you're never going to be a CEO of a technology company in Milwaukee. Well, guess what? That happened. So you figure it out, you work hard, and just be true to who you want to be, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It was very inspirational to hear from each one of you, your stories, the challenges that you faced, and how you overcome it and became so successful. And it's just very inspirational. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. It is 7 o'clock, if you can believe it. It's been a whole hour. It went by really fast. I was fascinated listening to all of you. I also wanted to make sure to thank Jennifer for her wonderful moderating and to encourage her to keep going and to stay in touch with those of you who have passions that align with hers as well. So just to quickly wrap up, I just want to do a reminder that it is still alum month until the end of April. We have 2 more weeks of wonderful programming, so check that out. Also, the last week of April is our annual Alverno Giving Challenge, April 28th and 29th, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year for scholarships. And really the whole purpose of that fundraiser is participation. So as many Alverno alums giving as possible helps us unlock challenges for bigger gifts. So save the date for that. It'll be really exciting. This was recorded, so we'll put it online as soon as it finishes downloading to my computer. And I hope to see everyone again soon. Thank you all so much for speaking with us tonight. It was great to hear from you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.